Mr. Chairman, thank you for scheduling this hearing, and you've been a great partner to work with on this, and I appreciate it and look forward to working with you on this. Again, I want to congratulate each of you for your willingness to serve. Thank you for your willingness to serve, and congratulate you on your appointments and your nominations. And I guess I don't really have an opening statement. I do have sort of a mini rant to open, and it's not about any of you individually. It has more to do with our region. You know, when I hear people talk about, like, we need to care more about the Western Hemisphere, it's reminiscent of, like they say, you also need to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables. You know, it's a good thing for you, it's good for your health, and you should really do it. But most of us never get around to it. Well, speaking for myself anyway, I know I need to. So the point being is, this is not just a nice thing to do. It's critical to our national security and our national economic interests. Geography matters. It matters for a lot of different reasons, but it matters because proximity matters. And because we see it firsthand. You know, there's look at the migrant crisis that we face on the border today. Those are all people coming from places where life is not good. And at the cornerstone of why life is not good in those countries, the violence, the economic deprivations, whatever it may be, is poor governance and bad decisions made over a sustained period of time. So that alone is a national interest. But then, not to mention, we do have near-peer adversaries. We didn't 25 years ago. The United States lived in a unipolar world where we were the only show in town. Now there are at least one unprecedented near-peer adversary. The Chinese Communist Party is a challenge to the United States, unlike greater even than what the Soviet Union was, because they are a commercial rival, a technological rival, a geopolitical rival, a diplomatic rival, and a commercial one. And in addition to all of that, they are also a military threat to the country as they continue to develop. And they have an interest in the region. They want to extract minerals and have mineral rights, certainly, but they also want leverage. They want control over countries so that they'll vote with them at international fora, and ultimately so they could potentially position themselves either on a rotational basis or permanently all over the world militarily and the like. In essence, they would love nothing more than to encircle the United States and to have put themselves in a position in each of the countries, for example, that all of you have been nominated to serve in, but more broadly in the region. They want to be in a position one day to, no matter who gets elected in those countries, do whatever they want, because that country owes them too much money and they own too many things in that country to break away from it. And so that's the fundamental challenge that all of you are walking into. And in the context of that is how I think we need to guide our foreign policy. And so I hope we'll have a chance to talk about that today. You know, as we go through some of the countries highlighted here in today's hearing, in Uruguay, we have a president who's been trying to work with the United States on things like reducing barriers to trade. But unfortunately, because we don't have a strategic approach to that relationship, it's not a partisan attack. I think you can say that of virtually any administration in the last 30 years. Because we don't have a well thought out and executed a strategic approach to the region, you have someone who basically feels like his only options for development are to cut a deal with the Chinese Communist Party, do a deal with the devil in that regard. In Suriname, you have a president who's struggling to manage more than $1 billion in Chinese debt that his predecessor took on. And we have this administration that has this single-minded focus on climate change, and therefore it doesn't seem interested in helping them develop markets and/or their capabilities because it happens to be oil and gas. And in El Salvador, we have a very interesting situation. On the one hand, we've seen some of the, obviously there's been economic chaos, some of the internal political things. I'm not a big fan of everything that's been done there, but I also think it's a relationship that it's important for us to manage appropriately. And our charge, I believe, has left post and sort of announced some strategic pause in efforts to reach out to them. So as we talk about going there, Mr. Duncan, it's a very, very challenging situation, and one that I'd love to hear your thoughts as to what the road forward is, because I'm hoping that we can still have a relationship in El Salvador that's pragmatic. We don't have to clap or celebrate all the stuff people do that we don't necessarily think is good, but I also think we have a national interest concern there that needs to be balanced. In Trinidad and Tobago, the Prime Minister, unfortunately, continues to be a supporter of the Maduro regime and signing agreements to join the Belt and Road Initiative of the Communist Party. Nicaragua is a horrific disaster. I think it's the second poorest country in the hemisphere, but more importantly, and just as important, is the I mean, this is a country where the president arrested every one of his political opponents. If you ran for president, you went to jail. I mean, not even Putin arrested everybody. He at least has an official opposition. Here, it's pretty stunning, the direction that's taken. And even more troubling is they have now rolled out the red carpet, this open invitation for both Chinese and Russian military stationing in the region. I think the Russians have their hand full right now, but you could see a presence there. But the Chinese may one day take them up on it. And that would be, I mean, if we wake up in a world where the Chinese have a military basing arrangement in our own hemisphere, it would be a very troubling turn in regional affairs, and one that I think is a threat that we can't overlook. So, all of these places we're facing some real challenges, and I'm hopeful that we'll be able to talk about those today. Again, I am grateful for your willingness to serve, but we've got big problems on our hands in this region, and we better start taking it seriously, or we're going to wake up in less than a decade living in a very different world than the one we live in now and the one we grew up in. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. So there's an embarrassment of riches. I've already done introductions, but for